Poštovani gledalci, dobrodošli u još jedno izdanje emisije Granice istoka. Ja sam Harun Karčić. Članice Sjevernoatlantske alijanse su na samitu koji se održao u Washingtonu u julu ove godine poručile kako su regije Zapadnog Balkana i Crnog mora od strateškog značaja za alijansu i da NATO ostaje snažno posvećen njihovoj sigurnosti i stabilnosti. Sve zemlje Balkana su članice alijanse osim Bosne i Hercegovine, Srbije i Kosova. Demokratske vrijednosti, vladavina prava, reforme i dobrosusjedski odnosi su od vitalnog značaja za regionalnu saradnju i euroatlantske integracije. Politika koju su usvojile zemlje članice NATO-a davne 1949. godine kontinuirano se evolvirala u svjetlu promjena strateškog okruženja. Od kraja hladnog rata, politika alijanse i njena struktura su doživjele temeljne promjene kako bi reflektirale čitav niz promjena u europskom političkom i vojnom okruženju, kao i pojavu novih prijetnji po sigurnost. Osim toga, proširen je i koncept odbrane kako bi uključio i dijalog i praktičnu saradnju sa drugim zemljama van alijanse kao jedan od najboljih vidova jačanja euroatlantskih sigurnosti. U nastavku emisije razgovaramo sa generalom Matthew Valasom, šefom NATO štaba u Bosni i Hercegovini, ali prije toga pogledajmo uvodni prilog. Gost ovog specijalnog izdanja je general Matthew Valas, šef NATO štaba u Bosni i Hercegovini. General Matthew, hello and welcome to the Al Jazeera Balkans channel.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Now, General, to the best of my knowledge, you have been serving in this country back in the late 1990s. You came back a couple of months ago. Can you give us a sense of your main impressions as the new commander of NATO HQ in Sarajevo?
Thank you. So, if I think back to my time here when I first came in the late 90s, early 2000s, people in Bosnia and Herzegovina were still in the state of shock from the war. But there was an underlying sense of hope that things were going to improve. To be blunt, I'm very concerned and I'm frustrated by the lack of progress we've seen since that time. I feel like we should be further along. However, I'm quite reassured by the armed forces of BIH and the leadership and their demonstrated commitment to their mission, and they've done it with limited resources, and they've just fought through the challenges. And so with that, I think the armed forces should serve as an example here in the country, as their ability to lead through some of the challenges that they've had.
Sort of a success story.
Certainly a success story. I think it can't be understated. The condition that the country was in and the fact that we took two militaries. And so the militaries were merged together, and there was consensus to do that, which is where that sense of hope came from. And so they were really the fundamental pillar of the multi-ethnic society here in BIH. And so I think we need to look to them and to see what they're doing and reflect that in other places.
Right. Now, General, how is your headquarters contributing to security in this country, and what are the main activities carried out by your organization?
So our main role at NATO headquarters Sarajevo and our primary mission is to advise and assist BIH authorities on defense and security sector reform. What does that mean? It's the changes at the higher levels that are needed to professionalize the military and also make it a resilient, capable, and interoperable force within the broader international community. We do this. There's a multitude of programs that we work. Some of the things that stand out are the planning and review process. And all of this is to ensure that the armed forces and security apparatus here in BIH are able to complete their mission effectively for the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Right. General, how would you describe the current political climate in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and what are the most pressing political issues this country faces today?
I'll start with this. I can understand that elections can evoke passionate responses, but we need to be sure that our leaders are always constructive in everything they do. I really feel that political leaders in this country need to calm down. They need to, but the unfortunate case is that they see a path to victory through inflammatory rhetoric and not through the compromise and accomplishment of the reforms and objectives that are needed to secure the state of BIH. And so that's the real challenge, I think, is the fact that the path to victory is not through achievement of the necessary reforms. So all in all, I would say things need to calm down in the political sphere.
On all sides?
On all sides. On all sides. There's no individual group to blame. All sides need to calm down, come together, and find compromise.
So I wanted to ask, we've been talking a lot about foreign malign influences in this region. So now, what foreign malign influences are currently affecting Bosnia and Herzegovina, and how dangerous is it, given that the country is still a fragile democracy?
So I'll speak to some other policy. So recently, the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, announced that he was launching sanctions against RT, the media organization, loose media organization, as the Russian government has established units within RT with cyber operational capabilities. So what does this mean for BIH is that if there are similar challenges here in BIH, we will only see more division. Autocrats are not committed to the people, nor are they committed to the truth. And so NATO has been clear that we're always committed to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all nations. And above that, we're committed to the rule of law. So these are the risks that I see from those foreign malign actors. That's a specific example. And so if I think of the challenges that it poses to the United States, what challenge does it pose to BIH?
The war in Ukraine has already entered its third year. I wanted to ask you, what impact is this war in Ukraine having on stability and security in the Balkans, particularly in BIH, and how has NATO adjusted its strategy and its engagement in this region?
So Russia's war in Ukraine and the invasion of Ukraine, it was a wake-up call for all nations, members and partners to work together to achieve common defense. It's imperative that we increase our cooperation as we're certainly stronger together when we pool assets and assert ourselves firmly in the international community. And so NATO here continues to provide assistance to the Western Balkans, to the region, and it's a good example. Our headquarters, NATO headquarters Sarajevo, is an excellent example of what NATO's commitment is to the region and to BIH specifically.
Now, can you elaborate on the specific measures or operations NATO has undertaken to counter foreign line activity and disinformation in this part of Europe?
So NATO is paying very close attention, as we just mentioned, and so they are providing additional resources to specifically to BIH, and that's in the form of a political engagement support cell, which reports direct to NATO. And also, you'll hear multiple times across multiple platforms about the Defense Capacity Building Initiative, which is focused on strengthening the broader security institutions and defense inside BIH. These are things like cybersecurity, crisis management, counterterrorism. These are the efforts that we're taking to increase our effort, attention, and partnership. But I'll go back to some of our previous comments, which is NATO and other allies and partners can provide support to BIH, but we rely on the leaders to enact those reforms. It takes a partnership here in BIH. It can't be done, and the political will needs to be demonstrated here from leaders to enact these both the reforms, but also make the most use of the support provided.
Now, over the last couple of months, I've seen quite a number of cyber attacks in Germany, in Poland, in Albania. And I wanted to ask you, what are the main cybersecurity threats facing BNH today? And can NATO at least help the country by sending, military advisors to help in this domain?
So I think that's a great point that you mention other countries, because the cyber environment is contested at all times. There's those that seek to degrade infrastructure. They want to steal intellectual property, and they want to impede the defense and security sector in all countries. NATO is already providing assistance to BIH in these terms. We mentioned the DCB program, but we've also, for years, we've been working towards this problem set, providing training and resources to support BIH's cyber defense initiatives. And I'm probably going to take a little bit of heat for this from my counterparts who live in the cyber defense world. But cyber defense, I always describe, it's the boring things that we do that are the most important.
Exactly.
And so it's people taking the correct proactive measures to secure their own devices. It's the other broader programs of defense. I think there's this impression that cyber is about what they see in the movies and at the point of impact of when an attack occurs.
But that's already late, right?
It's too late.
Yeah.
I see it more as though it's airport security. Nobody is excited, no regular citizen is excited about airport security. But if one terrorist is able to get through, it can cause massive disruption in the society. So I think it's about focusing on core tasks, the most boring things of defense. It's not about hacking or offensive operations or any of those types of things. It's about focusing on what the infrastructure is, that people are trained, and that we're prepared to resist any challenges. It only takes a malign actor, one clear shot for them to engage.
Now, let me ask you a very blunt question. Is NATO membership earned, or is it a political decision, or is it granted?
I would describe NATO membership starts in the country that is seeking accession into NATO. The key thing that they need to do is demonstrate both the capability and the willingness to support NATO values. No no country, nobody will ever force membership upon another country. That decision starts with the country seeking accession. I don't know if I would describe it as, or make it so binary in those terms. I would say that it starts in the country, they demonstrate their willingness and capability, and then they move forward from there with accession talks. But again, the core, nobody forces NATO membership.
Right. But are you as NATO worried about Russian and Chinese disinformation campaigns in Bosnia? Are you worried about political subversion? Are you worried about economic coercion? And what exactly can you do as an alliance to counter these threats in a region, in a country which borders two NATO member states, Croatia and Montenegro?
Yes. So disinformation is not new. It's been used by state, non-state actors for years to achieve malign influence goals. What's changed is the scale and the complexity of the disinformation. It may not be abundantly clear. It's intended to not be clear that it's disinformation. It's presented as real information. And then what do we do to deter and defend against such actions? So we're working closely with allies and partners, and including BIH, to counter disinformation. What I would really say is that we stand on the truth. NATO, we have a history and a presence in BIH. We have a demonstrated commitment to BIH. I think you've heard this from several of our senior leaders about our commitment, about NATO's commitment to BIH. And I think the efforts to counter, it's a very difficult challenge and a very difficult problem set, but we are continuing to focus. We're focused on the truth, and I think that's what we need to rely upon.
Right. And finally, what is your vision for Bosnia and Herzegovina for its future in terms of its stability, security, and in terms of its membership within the alliance?
We've said this throughout our discussion here, is that NATO's committed. So I see that today, that NATO's committed and will remain committed to BIH. But what I see as a key indicator is that people are leaving BIH, and they're leaving and they're moving to the West. And what is that they're seeking in the West? They're seeking freedom, they're seeking prosperity, they're seeking safety and security, things that they may have concerns about here in BIH today. So my vision is, and what we work towards every day in our headquarters, working in defense and security sector reform, is that we want to see, ultimately, is that I would see is that the NATO values are adopted, so that all citizens see their future right here in BIH, that they feel secure in their homes and prosperous in whatever endeavors it is that they take. That's what I think NATO should be working towards, and I think that's what we're working towards.
Right. General, it was such a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much once again for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
3 decenije je većina zapadnih zvaničnika vodila politiku zasnovanu na pogrešnoj pretpostavci da se Rusija i Kina približavaju Zapadu kada je riječ o ključnim principima na kojima treba da počiva svjetski poredak. Naročito su evropske članice NATO-a zatečene jer su se godinama oslanjale na mirovne dividende, tačnije američki sigurnosni kišobran, istovremeno računajući na jeftinu rusku energiju i pristup rastućem kineskom tržištu. Suočene sa novom rastućom prijetnjom, članice NATO-a nastoje da ubrzano prilagode odbrambene planove kako bi se pripremile za sve moguće scenarije. Poštovani gledalci, bilo je to sve u ovom izdanju emisije Granice istoka. Ako ste propustili bilo koji dio, emisiju možete pregledati na našem web portalu balkans.aljazeera.net. Hvala na pažnji.